I'm live. I'm by myself. Let me pull up my show notes here. If there's anybody that's jumping in right now, make sure you let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. I kind of just jumped on real quick, had a lot of stuff going on in the background. I had just enough time to grab a cup of coffee. So let me get situated here real quick. Let's see. We got a awesome show lined up. Tom's not here, obviously, and it's going to be me. I got a special guest, and we are going to talk about local marketing, some of the juicy details that you don't really hear anywhere else. And I'm going to do a little bit of a different show since I'm by myself right now. I know usually we have kind of a usual format. I'm going to run off the usual format a little bit, just because it's a little more difficult to do this by yourself. So, how's everybody doing? Dorn, I see you. Patty, Curtis, got a lot of people coming in from YouTube, Facebook. Richard, yes, Richard, I'm flying solo. Tom is actually the day that Tom is going back to Las Vegas. So he has wrapped everything up and he's on his way. So I am manning the ship right now. And yeah, like I said, I got a special guest lined up for us. Patty, no music today. I know. It's always a little less entertaining with just me, but I promise we're going to get into some nuts and bolts, some of the stuff that other people won't really talk about. How's it going, Doug? Good to see you here. Hey, Guy. Somebody said, let's get the party started. If you're just jumping on and you haven't logged into Facebook, make sure you log into Facebook so I can see your name on the stream, because I'm going to be asking some questions. I'll probably be giving away a little Cash App money like we usually do without the money song. I don't have the money song. You guys are going to hate me for that. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to start out real quick just by going through some of our shout outs, because I think that is really important to highlight what people are doing in our community. And so I have my first shout out for this week here real quick. Let me boost this up a little bit. Have one sip. Need to get fired up. So the first shout out this week goes to Jocelyn Wing. Jocelyn says that she just stepped into her first $25,000 month as a digital marketer. That is incredible. I mean, that is an insane amount of revenue, especially for me. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. When I had my first 6-figure year, right? That was like, I don't know. When I was making regular money with doing automotive, right? I don't know. Let's say I made 30, 40, 50 grand a year. When I hit that 6-figure mark, that was like 10 times more money than I had ever made, right? And it felt so big because that was like 10x more money than I ever made. And even like when I started making $1 million, it wasn't quite as big. It didn't hit as hard because that was like, I don't know if I make any sense here, but that's like a 10x compared to what I had ever made. And to go from like that to where I ended up, it just, I mean, it was a total life-changing experience. So that first 100K, that first 25K month, I mean, she's probably going to hit 100K this year. That time is such a special time that I think is so important, and you'll remember forever. So she said the month's not over yet. It's probably going to be over tomorrow. She says, I'm sharing this to motivate and inspire. Everybody can get to this level. Just continue to deliver the goods. P.S. I am taking my kids to Disneyland in Anaheim next month with this win. Dreams come true. Those who stay humble and never quit. To God be all the glory, that's incredible. Man, I'm so happy for her going to Disneyland with her kids. And also that little bit there about staying humble and never quit. I was actually thinking about this as well, about how it doesn't really matter what level you get. If you don't stay humble, if you don't stay teachable, like there are some people in the industry that I know of that they're doing great. I mean, they're doing great. They're making a couple $1,000,000, crushing it. But there's one thing that really stands out about these people in my mind that I'm like, man, that sucks that they are that way, because they think that they're just the shit. Like there's nothing that comes close to them. They're just not humble. They're not teachable. And that's just such a lame way to look at things, you know? And this is my take. This is just my take. You'll always reach another level, right? There will always be a trap door that you can crawl through to get to the next level and the next level and the next level. So yeah, Jacqueline says that she hates arrogance. It's ugly to watch. It really is. It really is. It's, I mean, everybody's got their own flavor. Everybody's got their own taste, but I would agree. Jay says, fantastic job. Dorn says he did his first 10K real estate flip was eye-opening and life-changing. Yeah, I mean, so back to my example that I totally botched, right, Dorn? When I made $1,000 for the first time in one day, that was huge, right? It previously had taken me weeks to make $1,000. And that's why I remember those moments so much more than the other ones. So let's jump over to our next shout out real quick. Let's see. Ruben says that I went out today. Ruben Rothschild went out today, Monday, started at 9 a.m., ended at 4 p.m., closed 2 postcard deals today. The first person he talked to, he sold. That is an amazing feeling. I mean, what a way to get confidence for the rest of the day and the rest of your prospecting. You sell the first customer. Has anybody ever had that happen when you're doing your prospecting? The first person you talk to, or the first email you send, or the first message you send, you actually get a lead or close a deal? That's some pretty massive stuff. He said it's a little meat market around the corner. The shop was really cool. Second one he closed was in a breakfast restaurant, super cold pitch, no connection. I went in there and pitched her. And an hour later, she called him back. Yeah, that's amazing. So I know a lot of people have a lot of fear going into these cold prospecting scenarios. It could even be on the phone. It could be walking into businesses. But I mean, look at this testimony here from Ruben of going through and closing 2 deals cold, which is amazing. Jacqueline says that Ruben shows us how persistent pays off. And it's so true. It's if you get caught up on the failures that you have with your prospecting, your sales, or even just in business in general, I mean, if everybody stopped at all the failed attempts that they had, I mean, man, there would be so many less successful people out there, right? It's all about how you get back in the game, how you pick yourself back up. Let's see here. Ruben has another win. I think this is his second win. He just parlayed this into, and he's following the strategy. Look at his mailer. He took the laminate, he took the mailer, got it laminated, and walked into a few businesses. I remember seeing this now. And you can see that in this mailer, everybody, this is the actual mailer that we did in Hawaii. And anybody that joined the Coupon Cash system, we actually sent them these examples of our past mailer in Hawaii. And then we also we had some like general white label type mailers that you could use to show businesses, so it didn't look like you were from Hawaii. But I mean, that's pretty awesome that he went ahead and used some of these mailers and laminated them and then closed it. So that's amazing. He also has the routes, the USPS routes for where all of the mailers would be delivered. So I think that is a really good value proposition to take into your businesses that you're prospecting as well. So awesome job, Ruben. And then also a win for Mr. James Healy from Montana. He says that he's going to be late to the jam session today. Just returned from 3 weeks on the road, vacationing and working. He has a new podcaster onboarding meeting, 3K setup, and $2,000 month to help produce and publish the show. Love these podcasts. Each one is adding about $25,000 recurring to my annual revenue. Wow. That's pretty incredible. Let me see here. So from 2 sharks collected in my notes here, it says that $6,579 were collected over the last week. But looking at Jocelyn and James, I mean, between them over the last month in July, this is from July 26th for Jocelyn, $25,000 month. And also James, he's gotten, I think, 3,000 set up, 2,000 per month. So that could be either a $3,000 or $5,000 per month win, at least for this month. I mean, that's like $30,000 over the month. I mean, those are just the wins that we know about, right? Those are just the wins that we know about. So if you all could do me a favor and go to this link on your screen, and I appreciate Shashan right now just reminding me to do this in my my team Slack. If you all could go to this link and congratulate everybody that you see on this post. Let me pull it up real quick. And tag them and give them a shout out. Let Jocelyn know how stoked you are for her having her first $25,000 a month and taking her kids to Disneyland. James as well with his new podcasting deal, and Ruben with all of his closing deals. Go to this post, leave a comment. I see plenty of you already have. I'm gonna like it, leave a comment. And what I'm gonna do at the end of this stream is I'm gonna pick a few of you, a couple of you, maybe, I don't know, maybe 3. Let's pick 3, Shashan. Let's pick 3 people at random who congratulated these sharks. Let's give them some Cash App money. Let's just hook them up just for congratulating and helping to inspire the community always. So awesome job, everybody. Really awesome job. All you have to do is go to that link you see on your screen, offlinesharks.com/shoutouts. And then I will go there at the end of the feed and then pick a few people out at random. So let's see here. There are a couple of questions that I wanted to run into real quick, just to get some good information out there before I bring on our guest. So Nelson says that he was just contacted by a company who had his Google ads suspended for not paying their account bills because of some issue with their card. Has anybody ever had any of their customers' Facebook account banned for running ads? Or maybe your Google account? Has anybody ever had their customer's Google account banned or disabled or blocked or turned off? Because that is a shit show. That is a total nightmare. That's like my worst fear of happening. Sometimes I've actually stayed away from running ads because of, how aggressive they can get sometimes with that. So Nelson says they are now desperate to have their ads turned back on and want me to do it as soon as possible. So lucky for Nelson, this was somebody else, right? They weren't really his client yet. He says that I'm not super knowledgeable with Google ads as I specialize more in SEO. What's the process of getting their ads back up and running, and what information do I need from them to do so? I'd appreciate any help. Thanks. And I see that a bunch of you already jumped in and chimed in with him. I'm just going to give you my quick take on this. What I would do is, number one, you can always go create a new Google Ads account, right? And start running ads for those people. So you can do that. However, you may end up in the same situation that you're in before if you don't figure out why their ads were shut off. And it could be as simple as a landing page copy, or malicious links, or maybe there's a virus on the landing page that you're sending them to. So those are some of the things that you want to look for. I'd be willing to bet that this account that got shut off has a notification or a flag for some reason in why that they shut it off. I've gotten ads shut off because of mistakes that I've made. And then what I'll do is I'll reach out to Google support. I'll look at the notifications. If I can't figure it out myself, Google has a great support option. That's one of the best things about Google and running ads in their platform is they have like a live chat that is super responsive, but they also have various ways to get in touch with them, submit tickets, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I would do is I would probably reach out on behalf of the client or through their account and ask them why it was shut down and get a clear understanding of why. And then either see if you can get that reversed first. And then if you can't, then I would probably start running ads in a new account. And you might even want to consider asking Google if it's okay if you run ads for them in a new account, just so you know what you're potentially looking at. If there's any, you could get in trouble with that. So that's what I would do. And then also, when you bring this type of client in, one of the most important things is to set their expectation, right? If they're going to pay you money to get their ads going and bring their ads up to speed. You can take this project on and say, look, I'll try to do this for you, but we could get banned again. So if you pay me and that happens because your offer is, too much on the gray, you operate too much in a gray area of like maybe an industry, like maybe you're trying to advertise for some sort of like gambling or something like that, but it's not quite gambling, or it's some sort of, I don't know, lottery or something like that. I know that that's against Google's terms of service. So you just want to set clear expectations with all your clients. And that kind of ties into our guest, who I'm about to bring on, who's somebody that has had a ton of clients. I've known this gentleman for, gosh, I don't know, 4, maybe even 5 years now, probably around the whole time I've done stuff online. I met him right pretty near the beginning. And he's just got a wealth of experience in working with a ton of clients and setting expectations. And I've seen firsthand some of the deals and the jobs and the gigs that he's done, and also some of the strategies that he has deployed to get clients, keep clients, set expectations, things like that. Also build some software. So I'm actually just going to jump into bringing him on because I want to get some good conversation going with you and him. So I'd like to introduce you all, if you already don't know him, Mr. John Shea. How's it going, John?
How's it going, everyone?
I was going through that question. I was like, wow, this is actually just a great point to bring John in. You know all about setting client expectations, don't you?
Yeah, that's definitely a big one. And I think for me, it's definitely been a bigger one that if you fumble on that, even when it comes to, I've had clients where I've been in situations working for other agencies, even where, I didn't necessarily have control of the outcome, maybe even the deliverables. But if you're good at, communicating and, making people feel good about what is hopefully happening in the background, then usually they'll stick around. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you know what's interesting is when you're new and you're just getting started is how you suck at setting expectations, right? You're so worried about like being able to deliver and do all the things to deal with a new client that you probably promise too much all the time, right? And then you set yourself up for what I like to call an unreal expectation, right? And I think that's probably one of the biggest, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but it's one of the biggest things people face early on is setting unreal expectations with clients, wouldn't you say?
I think so. I mean, it's definitely, it's something I've done, like assuming that I can do a lot more, or maybe feeling like, maybe I'm just going a little overboard, I guess, sometimes, assuming that, trying to do all these different things is going to be the answer when maybe that's not. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things you just kind of have to make those failures, I guess. At least that's what happened with me.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you. So I wanted to kind of give everybody a little bit of like background on when you started and where you started, because I think that's a big, actually, I don't even know if this is originally where you started, but I'm gonna maybe just jump into the point of like, at some point you were working with an agency and managing like 30 something clients. Is that right?
Yeah, I could go. I'm not going to go to like the beginning of my story, but I'll like go to where it led up to that point.
Sure.
And I think it'd be good for context. So at the time, I had finally gotten out of working for a job that was something like I really wasn't passionate about. Originally was IT. And I eventually ended up working for a couple of e-commerce companies because I wanted to do something internet marketing related. And at the time I was interested in that. I was learning Amazon. And while I was working this job at e-com, I ended up going out and finding a business. It was on Indeed. It was an insurance company that was looking for a part-time SEO consultant. So I actually accepted the job interview. And at the time I was working at the e-com company, I was very flexible in my hours. I could actually leave at like 3:00. So I left my current job and went on another job interview. Well knowing I wasn't going to leave my current full-time job, I actually went into it thinking, hey, I'm going to, basically go on this interview and I'm going to convince them to hire me, but I'm not going to be working in their office. I could basically outsource all of it. And that's exactly what I did. It was really intimidating, probably more than maybe what most of you guys will ever have to face. is I sat in a room with like 5 or 6 people, and they basically all asked me a ton of questions. And I knew from the job posting, they didn't really know. It was like they pulled this generic stuff off the web, like it'll have a line item that says like, submit Google XML sitemaps and stuff like that, right? And that's like something, if you guys have done that, right, that takes like 5 minutes and then you never have to touch it again. So it was kind of funny because I knew that stuff, but I still wasn't super confident with it myself. I didn't know that I could go do X, Y, Z and then get a client results, but I knew that other people out there knew how to do that. So I went and got this client, and I was kind of riding on the idea. I figured in my head, okay, if I charge them, I forget what the math was, but I came up with like $1,500 a month. And what ended up coming of that was they came down, which I anticipated, to $1,000 a month. Like they kind of, hit me back with a counter to my original quote. And again, it was local business at the time. That was when Google was the 7-pack actually. So it was pretty early on. It was before Google made it the 3-pack in the map results. Yeah. And I would actually go into this office. I went and met with the clients once a month for basically about, I don't know, what was it, like maybe an hour once a month. So there was a lot more than what I, do now, where I'm, just doing Zoom meetings and stuff like that. But I was physically going into their office. They were only 10 minutes from my house. And I would bring a report that was actually from a white label client business that I was using, a white label agency.
Nice.
So I would just read them all the things, and I understood everything that was in there, right? But I didn't really know, like, when going into the project, I didn't really know I should be doing this to get this result. Right? That's why I hired the white label company. So the white label company, I was paying about $300 or $400 a month, and obviously I was able to profit about $600, and I only had to go meet with the client once a month for about an hour, maybe less. So it was working out really well. And long story short, that client decided to rebudget their spend and put a lot of it into, I think they wanted to hire like a cold caller to get more insurance leads. And they decided to stop the SEO for a little bit. And then they ultimately, at the same month that happened, I actually got laid off from my job. So I went from making like, I don't know, $5,000 or $6,000 a month to basically almost zero.
Well, so can I stop right there real quick? Sorry.
Yeah.
So you got laid off from the job with the agency, or you're working on another job while you're working at the agency?
So this was actually before the agency. I was going to kind of like lead into where I eventually started.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I kind of went into when that happened, right? I lost this job for the e-com company. I lost big.
That's where I got confused. I thought the e-com company was like the agency.
No, this was like 2015 or so, and ultimately, I ended up looking for, I kind of went into the mindset of, instead of me going out and getting more of those insurance agency clients, I said, you know what, maybe I'll go work for an agency. I've never done that before. I want to see how all the inner workings are working. Like, what are they doing for sales? What are they doing for, like, what are all the employees doing? And I figured it would be a learning experience. In worst case, I leave and go back to doing my own thing. So I ended up working with this agency for about 8 months, and I did learn a lot. The company did a lot with AdWords, which I really knew nothing about. And while I was there, I had to manage about, probably give or take, about 15 clients. And they were mostly HVAC and plumbing companies. So they were very niche in their business and who they targeted, which I think was a good thing, because they were able to build everything around what they do. Like all their AdWords were catered to those companies, the landing pages they did for their AdWords. All that was things that I was learning while I was there and seeing the results of spending. They had some clients spending upwards of $10,000 a month on AdWords. So that was really interesting to see, like, what kind of results. So that was the biggest learning point. But from an SEO perspective, I knew more than anybody there. Nobody really knew anything. And I didn't think I really knew a lot. I felt like I was a newbie still. My confidence was still very low, that I didn't really feel like I knew all that much, but in reality, I knew way more than everybody there.
That's an incredible thing, though. Like, you're way smarter than I am, in the sense that you were like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to pick up like all these things that this agency is doing. I'm going to see the inner workings. I wanted to do that, but I couldn't do that. Right. There was no agency in Hawaii for me to go to. Like, there's no and if there were, they weren't like the type that you're talking about, joining. They didn't like have, like, when I'm here in New York, right, and I'm walking down the street and I see these agencies, and I can look through the window and I see all these rows of desks with all these iMacs. They all got gaming chairs. I'm like, whoa, that's a cool place to work. That's like an agency.
Right.
And, that's what I think it's just so smart to have done that though, because you get that experience, right? You get the backstage, you see what goes on in the inner workings of something of that size and scale. And you come into an operation like that and you see how they communicate with each other, how they bring on a client, how they deal with the client, how they get the objections. That kind of stuff you're basically getting paid to learn.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it was. And I guess for me, like where I ended up eventually leaving on my own to sum up the story. And of course, we can come back to some of the stuff I learned at the agency. But for those who are wondering, where did you end up, right? What are you doing now, so to speak? Was I essentially ended up hiring a mentor to learn Upwork. And because I made a hefty investment into that, I took that pretty seriously. And I was able to land a client for $2,500 a month. Now, at the time when I joined the agency, I was an account manager. That was my position. So essentially, I was manager of the clients, communicating with them, making sure they're happy. And then, of course, doing some of the back end work, which could include mostly SEO. They had, give or take, about 7, 8 employees. So there was a writer. They had hired a salesperson, the owner of the company. There was another account manager like myself. And then they had a third account manager who was also focused more on Google AdWords. So it was kind of like me and another guy were in the same spot. He had his own skill set. He actually knew how to develop software, for example. So there were things he knew that I didn't know and vice versa. But basically that was kind of the group. There was also a graphics person who I think left while I was there, and they hired a new person. So there was always a rotation a little bit. They hired a salesperson that would come and go, things like that. So it was interesting seeing all that. And ultimately, when I landed this big client off Upwork, I was very confident because all the clients at the agency, none of them paid over $2,000 a month. And I had landed a client bigger than the owner had, and he had over 50 clients. So he was like, "How did you do that? What did you do to do that?" And that was a really good feeling that wow, he sold someone on a package even bigger than I've ever sold someone. And he already had all these clients. Wow. So, I ended up bringing that client into the agency because it actually was an HVAC company. So it was like a perfect fit. I kind of utilized the agency background, and we have all these employees and systems, and, we do this and use that as a selling point, right? Which really helped. Yeah. But I was the only one doing all the work and the fulfillment for the client. And I was still dealing with all the other clients. At the time, my boss gave me a raise, from, I think I was making somewhere around, I want to say it was like 48,000 a year, somewhere thereabouts. And he bumped me to 51. And I did the math on it. And in reality, it really over the course of the year would probably only be like a $200 a month raise. So it was kind of like a little bit of a bummer, I could have just gone and taken this client and worked on it in my free time on the weekend or at night or something. And I'd be making, 10 times that. Right. Yeah. So, it was kind of a little bit of a blow, I guess, in realization that it's okay, well, I'm going to be stuck in the salary if I don't, if I continue down this path, whereas I have the skill to go out and get more clients. I've done that. I went and got this huge client on my own. Why not go do that over and over again or do that more? Mm-hmm. So where that ended up is I basically left the agency after about 8 months. And as soon as I left, I just hit Upwork really hard, and I was able to go and get 4 or 5 clients within the first month. And, that's kind of where it's all ended today. Now I'm more focused on either still doing some SEO client acquisition stuff with a couple partners that I have, white label partners, or I'm focused on my email agency business, which some of you may or may not know about if you've heard me talking on some of the other Offline Sharks webinars and things like that for some of you here.
Yeah, man, that's pretty incredible. So you started going after clients in Upwork. Was there any reason in particular? Or was it, I know a lot of, we hire a lot of people from Upwork, but I know a lot of people don't really consider that might be a good place to pick up clients, which I don't really know why. That's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely kind of a mindset thing for a lot of people. I used to think like that too. Oh yeah, I'd go there to hire these, people in the Philippines or something and pay them, under $10 an hour, whatever it is. But there's really big ticket clients there. I actually have a prospecting call with somebody on Monday, or I think Tuesday morning at 9:30. We're chatting, and I already did the preliminary call. I'm probably going to come in with a pretty killer proposal, and they already told me they have a $10,000 a month budget. So,
see, that's what I like about you, dude. You're always doing something. You're always doing something different. You've always got some, every time I talk to you, you got some different thing that you're working on that is super interesting. And you've even given me leads before that have turned into clients, right? Like sometimes you're busy enough to where like, man, I don't even want to deal with clients. Can I give them to you?
I know I gave you that one guy. Do you still have him, by the way? I never lost.
I do. Yeah, I do. He's
Okay, cool.
He's kind of a pain in my ass.
I figured, yeah, that's why I got rid of him. Sorry.
Yeah, we're still working with him, and it's all good though, right? It's all good. I mean, we appreciate the business, and I think we're definitely helping him out. Not all clients are equal, right? I think as we go through this journey of building an online business, you come to realize that, like, after you get a few wins and under your belt, all clients are different, first of all, and eventually you want to get to a point where you can like cherry pick the good clients, the ones that have a good fit with you, like a good culture fit with you and your team. And when I say culture fit, at first I didn't really know what that meant, right? I really didn't, coming from, like we were talking about, like not having any experience in an actual agency that's up and running, right? I had all these preconceived ideas of how those things ran, right? Like I thought an agency was this massive thing, like in Mad Men, right? Where there's like 20 people in a boardroom, and like Gary Vee, right? Like his agency, like that's what I thought really an agency was. And I didn't know the dynamics of, how to communicate with clients, like what's the back and forth. And I really learned it by sitting in like a coffee shop with somebody and seeing how they responded to their emails to people and stuff like that. Like I really knew nothing in the very beginning. Like I worked on cars for a living. That was my thing.
Right.
And so what I want to say about the culture fit thing, because that's something you kind of learn too, is like for us, a good culture fit with a client. I'll give you an example of a bad culture fit, and maybe you guys that are here with me can relate to this type of culture fit, and you can put a face to this happening in your business. So we have this client the other day, came in. They're in a very competitive industry, weddings in Hawaii. Who the hell wants to get married in Hawaii? Can you believe it? So that's super saturated, right? Turns out everybody wants to get married in Hawaii, just in case you guys are wondering. And they want to do SEO, right? So there's tons of people that are trying to rank for Hawaii wedding and those types of terms. And, you can do what you can and try to figure out if somebody's a good culture fit, but at the end of the day, sometimes somebody just sneaks through the cracks, right? So an example of a bad culture fit is the way that this person started to respond to me and my team when we're gathering information is like through sending 50 images through individual emails. Like they don't understand how to communicate like effectively online. And for us, what we like to do is like get all the information. Like that's why we have an onboarding call. You're supposed to give us everything. And if you can't, we'll set up another one. But give us all that stuff and we will work without bothering you. Like we don't want to have a lot of back and forth. And I know I might be like, being super particular, but like that's where we thrive, right? Like we get all your information. You hired us as experts to do something for you, and we're going to go do it. Somebody that is like nonstop sending tons of emails, text messaging you, calling you like, hey, can we change? Like that's just not a good culture fit for us. Like, so we try to stay away from those types of clients. And in the beginning, you can't always, you kind of just take anything that comes across your way, but eventually goals, right?
I'll make a note on that. And it's funny because it's fresh in my mind, right? Because I just mentioned this client that I'm going to pitch a proposal to, right? And I've kind of gotten to a point. I used to have this mindset where it was like, okay, I got this $1,000 client, and I would act like that is like the last client on earth, and like I kind of have to be. I see what Dorn said. It's funny. Yeah.
Total people.
But yeah, I'm losing my train of thought. So basically, I used to be in like this mindset where it's like, okay, I get this client, and okay, they're paying me $1,500 a month, and like that's really good, and that's a good amount of money, and I can outsource it, whatever. And they can be a little bit of a pain in the ass client, and I, knowing how sometimes difficult it can be to acquire new clients, or at least at the time, my mindset was like, okay, I have to keep them, and they could be a real pain calling you all the time, like you said, texting, emailing, whatever it is. I even had a client once where I had someone go out and build like citations, and they did a new Facebook profile, and he got featured on the news. And the company that featured him, the news outlet, went and tagged this like dormant Facebook page So he calls me up and he was like so livid about this. Like,
Oh,
like
man.
the world is over, oh my God, they tagged the wrong Facebook page, for Christ's sakes. So what it comes down to is I just had this client, right? I was on the phone with him and he says to me, well, I already have writers. So that's kind of like a big part of SEO, right? You have to write content to rank, of course. So he's telling me I've already got writers, and it's great because it's actually like it's for like a ghost tours business. So obviously if they're writing about that, there's some specialty. You got to kind of know what you're talking about. And
Ghosts, like spooky ghosts.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're like a national company. They do ghost tours. So he's trying to expand this in all the cities. And he basically then said, well, I want to hire like 3 freelancers and you're going to be one of them and you're going to do this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, like in the back of my mind, like, buddy, I'm not your employee. Like, that's not how this is going to work. So I flipped the script and I said, whoa, let me stop you right there. This is how I work. And I was like, you're going to, basically this is my process. We're going to get on the phone. I'm going to walk you through a proposal. You're probably going to be working with my partner, Jonathan. You're going to be speaking with him the most. And we have a full team of like 30 people. If you want to do some of the writing, that'll help us. But if you don't want to do that, then I'm not the guy for you. And I explained the whole process. I showed him examples of like an audit that we would do in month 1. Like if he comes in and says, well, yeah, let's go start building backlinks, right? I'm going to say, well, no, that's not how we work. We have to go do an audit of your site first. So I'm very like, I'm not afraid, I guess, to be like blunt with people. And that's my personality anyways. I'm just really blunt. That's why my brand is No Shame Income, because I'm super blunt. And I basically just go into it with, I'm not afraid to like tell someone how it's going to be. And I give them that expectation. I've even had people, same thing. They're like, well, we're going to do a call every week. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're not going to do a call every week. We're going to do a call once a month. And if that's not for you, then I'm not going to work with you. Right. So I'm very strict about that. And obviously you can't stop everything, but that was something I learned at that agency was I remember vividly, there was a guy who came on and I don't think he had been with the company too long, but someone else had been working with him. So he kind of gotten into this pattern a little bit. And I think it was like a month. So he had some chance to speak with someone else that was doing kind of the same job as me. And when I got to him, I remember he did something like in one day with AdWords. And then literally the same day he calls back like 4 hours later. And he was just like, how are things going? Or it was like the next day. He's like, how are things going? And I'm just like, there's nothing new to update you on. Like, I kind of have to be honest with you, like everything's still running the same way, but it's like he's expecting to see some influx of phone calls just magically coming through that wouldn't have otherwise, like I'm going to flip a switch and now the Google gods are going to send him massive amounts of new, HVAC leads. So it was interesting dealing with a lot of these people, but I guess lesson learned would be, if you're going to allow people to walk all over you, then that's what's going to happen. And, I just don't allow that to happen now. So I've already flipped the script on this guy I'm going to talk to, right? I'm going to go into the conversation with my partner and I'll come out of it where I'm not even going to be probably talking to him at all. We're going to close a big deal. My guy's going to take over the relationship and then he's not going to hire any other freelancers because we'll do the whole thing.
Nice. Let's see. I saw a comment come in from Jacqueline who says that, and this would actually be a really cool question is for what's your worst? I want you guys, we got a bunch of people here. I want you to tell me in the comments, like, what is your, like 2 sentences? What is your worst client experience, your nightmare client experience that you've ever had? Jacqueline says that she just sacked a client who is to communication what elephants are to ballet. I know what you mean. I can certainly relate. Dorn says, Dan Kennedy just fires the bottom 10% of your clients every year. And, I actually heard somebody talking the other day about raising your prices on existing clients and what happens. And they had a really creative way to do that. Shoot me a DM later if you guys want to know how they do that. I'm not going to dive too deep into that right now, but let's just say that they basically sent out a letter and they were like, hey, these are all the awesome things that we're doing for you, just so you know. And in order to keep that quality up, we can't do it without raising our prices, right? And basically what happened was like they lost like 30% of their business, but they increased their bottom line by like 50%. And they lost all the clients that were headaches because those are the ones that wanted to leave anyway, right? Those are the ones that caused all the problems anyway. So that's an interesting perspective, right? Because of course you're like, thinking in your head, like, I got to raise my prices. If I tell people I'm going to raise their prices, they're going to leave. But if you do it right, there's a right way to do it. And of course, there's a wrong way to do it. And the wrong way is sending an email saying, hey, I'm going to raise my prices on you. That's the wrong way to do it, because then you're going to have people that are just going to be pissed. But you can do it to your advantage. And just circling back around to this question they asked about everybody putting in their worst client experience, Kristen says, I had a new roofing client for being a micromanaging pain in the ass. Yeah. And so the best way, and this kind of dovetails into where we started when we were speaking with John, one of the best ways to kind of suss out a bad client is really in the beginning, setting their expectation. So in the beginning, I would actually teach them to be bad customers by sending emails all the time to them, asking questions. So they get the green light, like, oh, it's okay, right? Like if I'm up working late on their website and I'm like missing a piece, like I need something from them, maybe I'll shoot them an email at 11 o'clock at night. Like in their mind, if they see that coming, they're like, oh, it's okay to email this guy at 11 o'clock at night. Or if I email them on the weekend, they're like, this guy's working on the weekend, I might as well email him on the weekend, right? Like, so you can, without even knowing it, teach your customers to be bad customers. In the same way, what you should do is teach your customers to be good customers. And you can do that with onboarding, setting their expectations. You can flesh out these ways you communicate and how you expect things and how they should expect, what they can expect from becoming your customer early on. And that'll nip things in the bud pretty quickly. And you'll be able to figure out like who's going to be a big issue before you get too far down the road. Because that's the worst. Like, I can't tell you how many times I have brought a client on that I thought would be great, good culture fit. And in the first month of working for them, I'm like, nah, you're going to be too much of a pain in the ass. Here's your money back. It's all good. Let's go our separate ways. It doesn't seem like this is a good fit. That sucks, obviously. And each time it's a learning experience, but man, I have so much more peace of mind not having those types of customers, right? So you will get comfortable doing that. Trust me, once you get a few of these bad apples. Let's see. Clients that want to change things every minute. Somebody says, she told me I'd stolen her online identity because I used chat on support with her host to solve a problem for her. She gave me the logins. Whoa. That's, man, I can only imagine. Somebody says, we have a very limited budget. Yeah. People that are on a budget. Here's my thing about working with people on a budget. In the beginning, like I said, you're trying to take as many customers as you can get, right? Like if they've got $500, I need that $500. I'm going to build you a website or whatever. And eventually you just don't want to continue to operate that way. Sometimes you have to, because people that are on a budget, especially in business, right? Like I know a lot of people personally are on a budget and all that stuff, but if your business is on a budget, meaning like it's not healthy, it doesn't have revenue, it doesn't have a product that's producing income, like when they come in as a client and they have a budget and they're looking for a deal, they're always going to try to get the most that they possibly can for the least amount that they can get it. When you as a business owner, you are trying to get as much as you can for as little effort and manpower, if that makes sense. I mean, so it goes either way, right? It's a pendulum. That's how business works. But you want to be the one swinging the pendulum in your favor rather than them, or have it pretty like even keel, right? Have it pretty even. Dorn says, I had a client who would only call, no email, no text. She would leave a message and call 6 in an hour until she got 1 week, and she left 35 messages between Friday after 5 to Monday at 10. Jeez, stalker clients, he says. See, Jacqueline says, I'm definitely going to take your advice, Nick and John. No more cracker clients for me. And Jacqueline, another way that you can do this too is part of your pre-qualification process, right? Like pre-qualifying and onboarding. I didn't think that that's what the topics were going to be for this live, but if you can pre-qualify, right, you can find out what people's budgets are. We usually we do this by using some sort of discovery forms or something like that, have some sort of intake process. John, do you have a pre-qualifying process?
I mean, I usually gauge it through that initial call and just setting those expectations initially. I think like even with this new venture I've taken on where I've been doing email marketing, I had a client recently where they weren't like my worst nightmare ever, but I made the mistake of saying like, hey, we'll do this landing page for you that's then going to allow people to start getting leads. And they had no awareness of the tool, how it worked when I built that landing page. And it turned into, hey, can you do this, this, and this? And we were willing to do that. But the bigger problem was that they were just so minimal in terms of their understanding. I ended up basically having more massive scope creep and a pain in the butt client because they're just basically little knowledge around the topic and understanding how all these things work, how to send emails, all that stuff, right? So what I've kind of come up with for anything I do, and what, you know, whether or not starting something new or an older thing, whatever it is, I just try to have something in writing that clarifies like, okay, you're going to get this, this, this. So for someone that I would work with again in the future, I would say, well, with this price point, I'll include, you know, 2 hours of phone time versus the 5 or 6 hours I ended up spending with this client. Whereas I've had other people, we barely talk on the phone at all. And ultimately, you know, I charge them the same amount of money, but this other 5-hour phone client turned into kind of a nightmare because that's a lot of time out of you know, not only doing the work that we had to fulfill, but now spending time on the phone just explaining things, right? And I didn't really clarify that from the beginning. So that's probably a good thing to really bear in mind as you go into any of these. And I'm even working on, like, I guess you could call it like a one pager or just some form of proposal that you could have something in writing that someone's signing, and using that as a way to clarify, like, this is exactly what you're going to get. And if we try to get more, they try to get more out of you, then you could say, well, look, that's not included based on what we discussed and what you've agreed, you know, what you've signed.
That's a great way to do it. You know, just like a simple scope of work type document, something that you can kind of, and I have one. If you want mine, I can send it to you. It's simple, right? Like, but at least like that sets the expectation. Like, this is what we agreed upon. Happy to send it to you. Real quick. So a couple of things. John said something that I want to ask everybody. And the first person that can get this answer to this question correctly will win some Cash App money. So John said, he said these two words, which are the worst. And I want the definition. Who knows what scope creep is? Scope creep. That is like, man, if I had a nickel for every time I had the scope creep come in and just start to take over a project, I'd probably be rich, man. I'd probably quit internet marketing.
And you do one in our space. It's not like a, you know, contractor comes in and, you know, I mean, I guess it can happen with a lot of niches, but, you know,
yeah,
I just hired a guy $4,000 to paint it's like a 1,200 square foot 3-car garage that I have in the new house here. So like, I think he's realizing, like, crap, there's actually a lot of little stuff that I didn't realize, but I'm hoping, like, at the end of it, is he going to fight me on it? Because it wasn't in writing, right? You know, so yeah. I'm wondering, and that's like, it goes back, like, I have a bathroom, for example, and this is like a mechanic's bathroom. It's dirty, like the walls are just gross in there, and it needs to be painted. So when we were chatting, like on day 2 or whatever, the following weekend, he was back for the second time. He's doing the mudding, and I was like, "So you get the bathroom too?" He's like, "No, it's another $250." And I'm like, "Shit," you know, like,
hey, can you shine my shoes while you're at it?
Yeah. So I don't know. There's like little stuff. Like, I noticed there's like normally when you're drywalling, you have to put these like edging, like metal pieces that go in the corners. When they originally did, there's like a storage area above one of the bays, and it's basically just this big empty dormant space. And from years of time, people taking boxes and things off of it, the drywall is all crumbled at the top.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it just now, right before we started the call, and I'm like, man, is he going to fix that? And is he going to have to re-drywall it? Like, he might not want to do it, but that's, like, he's going to have to do it right and paint it, you know, and make it look good. So I don't know if he's included that. Like, he didn't really say, oh yeah, I'm going to fix that. You know, he just threw out a number. So you definitely do have to clarify, and I think it can happen to anybody in any of these bigger scope projects. But for us, for sure, because of the fact that we're involved in so many things, right? In my case, like, let's say you go out and sell SEO, it's easy for someone to want to be like, well, yeah, can you fix the design? Can you make it convert better? And, you know, make this button here, change this color there, or can you go do Google AdWords for me? Can you go build this landing page for me? Build my website for me, right? Whatever it is, it can add up very easily because so many things are interconnected in the whole grand scheme of things. So, you know,
it's all about having, it's just like any relationship, right? you just got to have healthy boundaries. You got to have healthy boundaries. You got to know how to set healthy boundaries, not just with your friends and your loved ones and your family, especially your family, but also your clients. So a couple things. I had a lot of people that got the answer correctly. So I'm just going to give a couple of people here winners. So we're going to go with Jacqueline, who said scope creep when someone wants more than agreed. Mark says keep changing the project requirements. And then Curtis Burns from YouTube, watching from YouTube. Shout out to everybody that watches us on YouTube. Work exceeding original agreement. So all three of you, if you could put your cash tag in the comments, and we'll send you some Cash App money. And then the other thing that I want to do real quick is our member of the week. I want to do a huge shout out to our member of the week, everybody. Now, every week we try to shout out somebody that is in our group, in our community, just, posting to help out their fellows, sharing about their wins. Sometimes it's somebody that's sharing about their losses. I mean, a lot of us learn so much when somebody says like, hey, I had this issue and you shouldn't do it. This is what I did and it sucked. Don't do that. Like, that is one of the most biggest ways to learn from somebody. So oftentimes our member of the week is somebody who is just like struggling, right? And just sharing about it. And then you'll see all the people in our community like chime in and be like, hey, that sucks. This is what you should do next time. We're all trying to help each other out, right? So every week we try to highlight a member of the week. And this week, the member of the week is Ruben Rothschild. And if you remember, Ruben was on our shout outs. And Ruben got the member of the week this week because action takers are greatly rewarded. He picked up our CCSU program and took action, which landed him 3 new clients. And he has shared his approach in the group, how he did it successfully. So congratulations, Ruben. If everybody here could tag Ruben and give him a shout out in the comments, I'm sure it would totally make his day. Let him know that he's appreciated and that, we're all rooting for him. And so after that, I have 2 more Cash App winners, and then I want to talk about the webinar that we did just yesterday, Wednesday. So let me pull up my feed real quick in my Slack group. So the people that shouted out our shout out post that I announced at the beginning of the stream are Arnell Levy, Bruce Rogot, and Frank Caban, Mr. Frank the Tank. So all 3 of you, if you could put your cash tag in the comments, give away a couple $100 today, man. I'm gonna have to be doing some more work. You're our winners. Appreciate you all hanging out with us and always engaging with us and making these streams so much fun. Now, something you said, John, at the beginning of this was that when you had your, I think it was when you left your agency, you started hiring somebody. You paid somebody, a mentor, right? At some point that taught you how to do.
Yeah, it was while I was at the agency. Yes,
while you were at the agency, and that stuck out to me because I'm a big proponent, and I said this. I don't know if you guys were on that stream the other day, or not stream, the webinar presentation. Let me make this scroll on the bottom. It looks a little cooler. Looks like the stock market ticker. There we go. So this is the webinar. It's replay that we did just 2 days ago. I kind of feel like my life's work went into this, not into the actual presentation, but what's behind the presentation, because it's basically everything that I've been working on definitely in the last year, but it's built up over the last 4 years. And that being said, I'm a big proponent of when I don't know something, when I don't know a skill, when somebody has a skill that I desperately need or want, or I know that I need to get to the next level, I'm a big fan of paying somebody to figure that out, because I can honestly say that for me, going through my journey in becoming a digital marketer, I went through a lot of shit to learn all the things that I did. And John has, and we all have, right? But if you could just get all the information of all the stuff that I know to work, and I can save you from all that other stuff, or don't use me as a scenario, use somebody else. If you know somebody that runs Facebook ads, if you know somebody that knows how to build websites better than you, heck, if you know somebody that knows how to play guitar better than you, I mean, reach out to them, have them help you learn how to do that. And I'm a big fan of that. And maybe you can speak to how that helped you to shortcut your success a little bit, John.
Yeah, I mean, I was someone that, and I still struggle with it to this day, but I kind of shifted it into, of course, spending a lot more money. But ultimately, I'm sure as many of you know, when you started out, and maybe this is you now, you probably spend a lot of money on very low ticket products. And, I think for a lot of people that can be an addiction. It can be kind of thinking that, hey, this next thing or this other cool thing is going to solve the problem that maybe you haven't solved already. And of course, at the same time, when you're only spending 17, 20, $30 on these little softwares or apps or trainings, whatever that may be, you just don't really put the value behind it, right? Oh, if I don't really do anything with it, then so what, right? It's not a big deal. Maybe you ask for a refund, you don't really take it that seriously. I kind of went through those phases, eventually went to doing that with even more expensive programs that were $500, $1,000. And then eventually I said, well, you know what? I have the knowledge, but it's not like we're in a classroom, right? We're not in school. If you buy an offline charts product and you decide not to do anything with it, or maybe you've been sitting on one for months, Nick isn't going to be like, hey, you're expelled from school because you didn't show up to the training, right? He doesn't, to him, he's already made his money and ultimately he cares, but he's not going to be there to give you the accountability. So really what I was missing was I needed some accountability. I needed someone to basically guide me through a process. And the person that I hired had written a blog post about how he was traveling the world. He was outsourcing all the SEO work. He was closing sales. And that sounded really interesting to me. So I said to myself, well, okay, I can work with him literally directly one-on-one, get his feedback, be where he is now, and then get the same result that he's achieved for himself because he's already done it. It was funny because I had actually purchased a course from this person and I had refunded it because I started the process and I didn't have anyone to guide me, but I was trying my best, right? I was doing all these things. I even had a friend of mine make a fake freelance profile to hire me just so I could get a testimonial. Like I was doing all these things to try to make it work, right? And I didn't have any accountability. He wasn't going to me and being like, look, you did this wrong, or hey, you need to send more proposals, or your proposals were done wrong, or your profile's bad, or whatever it was, right? So in the sense of like building an agency and having processes and systems and knowing like what are the things you could be avoiding that could save you time, you probably, if you were to work with someone like Nick, right, as an example, you check out his webinar. Nick has gone through these things over the last 10 plus years, I'm guessing at this point, been through the ups and downs, dealt with some of the problems like we talked about today. Is just a little small piece of the puzzle of all the other little things that you could be running into trying to build this business, this style of business. And, if you were to go work with someone like Nick, as an example, I'm just going to plug you here. He's going to be able to guide you right through those, and you're going to get that additional help that you wouldn't otherwise be getting from just watching some training videos, right? You're not getting that accountability, getting something like that. And of course, at the same time, if you're paying a premium, then you're going to take it a lot more seriously. I bought into a program last year for selling some of my knowledge online, and I spent $7,800 on that. It was very expensive. That's a lot of money. And I've taken that pretty seriously. Like I've tried to really put a lot of thought and mindset into that, and knowing that I've spent a lot of money and how can I make that money back, right? How can I go and sell a client for $4,000 a couple times, make that money back, and keep doing that over and over again. So you really do have to look at it like an investment. And the other thing I think is good to note, and a lot of people don't think about it, is if you do something like this too, you can write that stuff off on your taxes, which is a real huge benefit. I don't think a lot of people think about it.
It's a huge benefit. It's why at the end of every year, I usually do that. And it doesn't have to be at the end of every year, but like last year, I joined a 10,000. It was actually 12,000, but because I paid it all up front, it was 10. A $10,000 coaching program. And the big thing for me, even like you said, John, even for me, it's the accountability. Really, like I'm not telling everybody here to just and John isn't either. Let's be clear, to just go out there and arbitrarily pay people large sums of money because you need accountability. No, like there are a lot of people out there, and I talk about this in the webinar. There are a lot of people out there that are saying that they have these types of businesses, but they don't really have these types of businesses. You do need to be very careful about who you hire to teach you to do these things, and you pay large sums of money to do coaching or accountability and mentorship. You don't want to just go randomly and find people, right? Or do your research on people, right? Like look them up. If you find somebody that seems interesting to you, or they're saying something that relates to you, look them up, do your research, see if they actually are doing what they say that they're doing. And you'll quickly find that most people that that don't have what they say they have, or that are like the fake gurus, right? Those are the people that we just throw rocks at from this community, because there are like tons of fake gurus out there who had an agency 10 years ago, but they don't have one anymore, but they act like they do, but they don't really know what they're talking about anymore. And it's why you see people in our group have so much more success with the stuff that we share, right? Because the stuff that we're doing, the stuff that we're teaching people, it actually works because it's working before we teach it to somebody. And so our skills, our methods hit a little differently than a lot of people. And you see that from within our community. So make sure that when you do find somebody with information, you do your research. And so the other thing that I want to say is the information, like John said, is one piece of it. And I explained a lot of that about that topic in that roadmap. In that webinar, if you guys go to offlinesharks.com/masterclass-replay, open that up in another tab, hold it. I'm going to only speak for another 2 minutes because I know John's got to get out of here too. Watch it after this live stream. And I basically break down the entire business model that I've gone through over the last 4 years. And you'll see that having the information, the knowledge is, yes, it is a piece of it. And I basically tell people how I'm giving them all of that information, all of the SOPs for my business and everything on that webinar. It's taken me years to put all that together, but that's only going to get you so far without the actual accountability and the mentorship. And like I said at the beginning of this call, I'm a big proponent of finding somebody that has a type of business lifestyle that you're looking to build, if online business is your thing, and finding a way to work with them. And so for the first time, really, this is a way that we're rolling something out that is more white glove than we've ever done. It's kind of a legacy program. And if you missed that training, actually, if you were on that training, give me I was there in the comments. Let me know that you were there, because we had a lot of people there. But and I had a lot of people there that were like encouraging me and hyping me up, because obviously, like presenting webinars is my thing. But as I said, I'm passionate about what I shared, because it's the real world. It's the real stuff. So if you're looking to scale a business online, start a business online, and do it by hiring other people to help you do all the work that you're not particularly fond of or good at, like maybe you don't speak technology as your first language like me, then go check out that webinar. If you're sitting at your desk right now, or you're on a phone, you're watching this, and there are areas of your business that you're struggling with, that that there are other people out there that are good at those things. If you could only find out who they are and reach out to them and have them help you, then go watch that training, because I talk all about that. So with that, John, thanks so much for being here. If you guys are interested in hearing more about John's strategies, his feedback, the things that he's doing on a regular basis, we've got John in our Remote Millionaires program. He's a private coach with us, and we're really looking forward to this year, John, having getting to work with you more closely and sharing a lot of your strategy and information. And it was a lot of fun hanging out with you today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. So that's it for the live Aloha Friday Marketing Jam session. No outro, none of that stuff. Go to the link right now, offlinesharks.com/masterclass-replay. And I will see you all next week. Take care and practice Aloha.